it's time for that boom bap breakfast right here, right now. Y'all are on Black Power Media, and I am the Ear Doctor, and I'd like to introduce y'all to your host today. We got a full lineup. Let's start off with Kalonji Changa. Let's go to Tierney Cherie. Let's go to Jackie Lukeman. Let's go to Kamal K. Franklin and the birthday boy himself, Dr. Jared Ball. Let's go, y'all.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Go, Jared. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Shout out to Mama's Biscuits on 50-year-old biscuit. Old crusty ass biscuit in the building. Grandpa's Biscuits is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. 50th born day. Welcome to the club, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Greetings to all of you. Tierney, it's good to see you again. This
good
is
morning.
a nice birthday present for me, selfishly.
Look at that.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
She didn't play it off. She's like, I didn't even know it was your birthday.
No one did. No one really cared. I think I got like 5 messages. I was like, whose birthday? What's that dude's name again?
I was like, who? Hey?
All my Facebook people will be reminded today. They'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We got to make
that
sure.
That reminder is vicious.
We got to make sure we serve you properly today, brother. You know what I'm saying?
So the big 5-0, right?
Big 50, man.
Wow.
50.
Oof.
It's amazing, man.
Oh, when I hit that age,
crazy.
I hope I look like you.
Yeah, Jed. I mean, you said he 50 today? Man, you don't look a day under 70, brother. I'm proud of you.
Black don't crack, beige don't fade.
You know I like it. Rock out, y'all.
All right. Anyway, the Ear Doctor's left the building. We got Tierney Cherie in the building, ladies and gentlemen, live. The African Esquire.
Yeah.
Thank you all for having me. I'm excited.
Hey, welcome back. I mean, we've been seeing you. Tierney would send us she's like, look, I'm gonna send y'all one of my clips from 2 years ago because y'all ain't ready for me just yet. It took us 2 years to catch up, so we finally got it on live.
But true. She's like to catch up, even to catch up on African news. She's like, I think y'all Pan-African, but y'all don't really know enough.
No, I don't.
Tidbits.
Y'all African with a Q. Right.
Jackie,
anyway,
how you doing, Jackie?
Jackie's in the building.
I'm here. I'm all right.
Yeah, you're all right.
Don't start that, Jackie. You better lively up yourself up in here.
I've been in the DC streets already. That's what that is.
Oh no! See, I got a beef with you, Kalonji and Jared. The two of y'all, because y'all the Saturday y'all just left me. I mean,
let me tell you.
Hey, wait a minute.
You're right about that.
I was training.
On the air, they just left.
Kamau didn't even show up.
Zero. You ain't got no beef with him. You knew he wasn't coming. He talking about what happened.
That's right.
We had a film showing. Good job, Jackie. You and I held it down.
You and I.
I was there with you in Sped, my sister. We are one.
No.
Was the movie
I
good?
I was there, and then I did get a call
from Uncle
that
Nearest.
I had to take.
Uncle Nearest said, "Nephew, this bottle ain't gonna empty itself."
No, Uncle Nearest. See, this is the problem. Uncle Nearest had been in a fight with Hennessy on Friday. That was the problem.
See,
and I lost. They fought. I lost.
And y'all left me with that film that, and I think we should apologize because we should have given a content warning.
A disclaimer.
Film. Yeah.
Oh no, we did. Now that part we did.
We did.
Now the remix faithful had been warned. We had let them know
we
this
did
movie
try
is
to
no
tell
joke.
people, look, this is a rough film, and
there's
no way to describe it.
So goodbye
to Tom.
And there were scenes I literally typed in the comments. I can't watch. I just can't watch. It's a vicious, accurate portrayal of the ravages of enslavement, both physically and then of course psychologically after the fact. But the physical parts, boy, I mean, it's no joke. It was a lot. Yeah.
But the discussion afterward was really great. People really enjoyed the whole concept. So we're looking forward to the next Black Power Media film movie night.
Yeah, the next one won't be as vicious. You know what I'm saying? But we had to start y'all off right. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got time to be playing with y'all. Y'all around here talking about you want liberation and we anti-colonialism. We want you to know who you dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I I didn't read the email closely enough. We might have to have movie night on as like a welcome to our alternate platform, because the if I remember correctly, the word strike was in the email we got from YouTube. So there was, YouTube had an issue with our movie night. Apparently, if you gather and stream what is already freely available on YouTube and then talk about it on YouTube has a problem. I don't know what the rules are. I didn't read it carefully enough. I'm just admitting that. But we may have to say,
in other words,
BPM
you guys got
on
the film
X.
from YouTube.
Yes.
The film is already on YouTube.
Right.
We streamed it from YouTube through YouTube.
Right.
And then talked about it on YouTube.
And we can do that.
And they were like, no.
Teddy, what's your thoughts on it? Have you seen the film Goodbye Uncle Tom?
No, I gotta be real. I'm really bad. Like ever since I got back I was in Ghana 2 weeks ago, I've just been bad with social media. Particularly because my son started daycare, and so I have to be on it. Yeah. But with YouTube, that's actually I don't know what the rules are, to be honest. I've seen so many things that have gotten a pass and other things that haven't gotten a pass. So to me, I just feel like it's about an agenda, and it's not really about clear-cut rules. And so that's because why, for me, like I'm constantly aware that they could shut me down anytime.
And you've moved to an alternate platform. You have, if I saw correctly, right, or have the beginnings of. At least, right?
My mindset is more like I expect that it could happen that they're going to shut my page down. So I just have Telegram where I tell people, okay, here's my videos that I put up, but also Odyssey is very easy. Like it just takes your YouTube videos and uploads it to its platform. So in the event that I am shut down, that's how people could watch my videos.
Yeah, I think we all need to have backup plans, and as they say, a digital go bag. You know what I mean? Like we need to be ready to break out at any moment.
Boy, look at here, man. It's like when you on YouTube, it's like working a white people job. You know what I'm saying? Your ass can be fired on any Friday. You just come into work and ain't no job. Like, what's going on, man?
Always
prepared. Security be escorting you.
Yeah.
What about my stuff in the
pictures
back?
on your desk?
Yeah. Shit all nice and packed up. I'm not saying that from experience. I'm just saying.
I am.
Anyway, so Dr. Jared Ball just turned 50. Yes, I mean, man, you starting to look like another celebrity interviewer we know. Yeah. I'm gonna have to investigate a little bit later on and see what the deal is.
I thought a picture was about to pop up. I was about to
say, here we go.
Now, why would I do that? Y'all would expect something like that.
I'm saying I am expecting it. I think we need to lift the moratorium and get back to the Photoshop games.
I'm gonna get on that.
Photoshop games, yeah.
I'm gonna get on that ASAP. Yeah, the last one was brutal when you hit me, man. I gotta say.
No, I know we you know, like I said, we need to recalibrate it back. I need to recalibrate it back to 70s, 80s, maybe 90s rules of engagement. Okay. And you know, maybe went a little too far. But
you say you went a little too far. Did you hear that?
But listen, again, I do want to say, just in terms of the birthday joint, like on Friday, went out again, had a little outing with some close family and friends.
Okay. We didn't get an invite. What's up, man? We ain't close family and friends?
Nah. First of all, you're not physically close, geographically close. Right. Second of all, this was very small, very specific. And very, in some ways, out of town. Actually, we did bring in Dr. Todd Stephen Burrows, dragged him in from Newark, and then it was really just it ended up being a little bit of an outing for my wife and me to get into the back into the go-go scene a little bit. The DC vibe band was rocking, and got to get into the pocket a little bit. Oh, man,
you did that.
Oh, I did. I had my. It wasn't even a two-step. It was too crowded, and I was a little too. It's still a little uncomfortable.
Too many
and everything.
Just a little sway.
The hands up, sway.
Yo,
when they get into the pocket. It was
We don't want the
A
videos
lot
to
of, like,
surface, man.
old people dancing in that old sweat.
Yeah, old sweat.
Oh wow,
Sweat.
that wasn't the
Key
focus.
sweat, old sweat.
Middle-aged sweat.
Old
thank you.
Middle age
Spice.
sweat. Middle age.
Just slapped his brood
Come
on. Dab a little Old Spice on.
Wow, the Old Spice.
Little Fabergé.
High karate.
Polo cologne. Yeah,
Black Noir.
yeah. Wow.
Hey, yo, Polo
Black
was the
Noir.
joint back in the day, man.
Polo
You know what I'm
was the
saying?
joint, and it
It
was
was.
one
It wasn't
of
as
the
bad as
early
Boot in those
product
days.
placement in rap too.
Okay, true that. Shout out to
My
Slick
fresh
Rick.
Polo cologne. Yeah, Slick
Guys,
Rick.
y'all had a
Okay.
good time.
Yeah, man, it was great, man. And the pocket is so beautiful, man. When they hit that, and then they ended on Prince's Pop Life, cut it a little short for my taste, but like it was just a beautiful short moment. And then home relatively early because I still am,
Because you're middle-aged. I mean,
I'm
you do be going to sleep, man.
I'm middle aged or old man, black old, 50
Listen.
black old.
Jared was no, it's not. 50's fly. Talking about, boy. What's wrong with you? Black old. So this cat right here, man. Where y'all from, man? Better get your Geritol, whatever you on, brother. Get you some
Geritol.
baby.
More
What's
proof
up?
that you old. You got to get your
Really,
Geritol.
yeah, he
I'm
really
talking about for
is
him. I'm
himself on
good,
that
brother.
joint right there.
The ultimate proof that you overage.
Yeah.
Need that
Yeah,
Geritol
yeah,
to get
yeah,
it
yeah.
moving.
Geritol.
Hey man, I'm just trying to look out for the man. Talking about 50 is old. He just accepted. He all lean back. 50's black.
No,
old.
I've embraced
Get
it.
your ass up.
Look, as soon as my hair fell off, shaved it off. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
As soon as I get to a certain age, I'm embrace the early dinners and the early bedtimes. I'm good.
When'd your hair
Wow.
fall out,
That's
Jared?
not on age.
When'd your hair
You've
fall
been
out?
bald since
Oh,
what?
in
12.
In the fall of 2000. No, 12. No, I was in
middle
grad
school.
school, and I had my hair in braids, and I took the braids out, and
the hair came with it?
fro just collapsed.
He said the hair came with it.
It just collapsed, and I.
Jed, I've been knowing you
embraced it.
45 years. You've been bald. I'm confused. Like,
No, this was in grad school. This was around right after the summer of 2000, around 2001.
Poor
It was
Tierney
like,
looking like, damn,
that
I
was the
too.
levels of tragedy, U.S. tragedy. It was 9/11, and then my hair loss. You know what I'm saying? It was like one after the other. It was like the. No, but I was in grad school actually before 9/11. So I was in grad school, and I remember, in fact, Dr. Turner's class was one of the first classes I went to after cutting my hair, and everybody was like, what happened? Like, are you going through something? And I was like, nah, man, I just lost my hair. I embraced it. You know what I mean?
Man, see,
And when
Rogaine
you're
with
pretty, you
minoxidil.
just pretty. You know what I mean? I look good
Oh,
regardless. So I was like, it's not a hassle. Let's move on. Because I didn't want to be the dude with the hairline starting back here. You know what I mean?
That was a good move. No, that's a good move.
Like I did,
That was,
I'm glad. I appreciate
wise.
that, man. I appreciate that you know when to know. What they say, you gotta know when to
know
fold.
when to fold them.
You gotta know
to
the
let
fold.
that
Man.
hairline go.
Either they better get.
I mean, you're a
man.
big dude, though. You're big. I mean, so it's kind of like,
Yeah. Would have been cool. You've been like my size and shit with a bald head at 12. You know. Where I'm from, they used to slap cats in the head if you had a bald head. You know what I mean? So Jared's kind of big.
No, and
I
I had to pay. I had teased some kids as when I was younger. For bald, being bald, like it's like the.
That's right, man.
Like I said, you got to be real specific with Mother Nature. I said, there were times where I was like, dang, I can't get my hair right. I wish I could get my hair right. She just took it away. When I was
like,
little, I said, I
fine,
want to live in a house filled with women. She was like, cool, 1 wife and 2 daughters. Like, you got to be real specific.
Gotta love Mother
real
Nature.
specific.
Hey, well, being specific, we're gonna call another bald head comrade of yours to make sure
sir.
that you keep the ball balanced. Mr.
He's
Doctor.
fronting. He covered up.
Oh, there you go. You got a lampshade.
Hey, Jared, I know the struggle, brother. I had locks
Yeah, it
all the way down to back here, and I had to.
He said every week, man. He sound like one of them old cats. Like back in the day,
Back in the day when I was
when I was 12.
I couldn't
Oh,
even
really
walk,
went bald.
but
So you
lifted
talking
up
about when you
my
were 12.
locks.
No,
Exactly.
Kalonji, that denim shirt was back in the day. I didn't get an invite to Jared Ball's party. I was like,
Oh my God.
Another bald,
the ball comrade.
yeah, another bald comrade.
I know. First he said it was family. It was everybody close.
Yeah.
And he mentioned like
Yeah.
Todd Stevens. I was like,
Uh-huh.
related
He
to
came
you?
from
Right,
New
right. And he
Jersey
said he came
and
from
I-
Newark.
Blue, man,
New
from
York,
Jersey.
and I mean,
Jackie lived next door to him.
They snuck out the house. They say, "Shh, don't let Jackie know."
Right. Hey, but not only that though, the ear doctor keep
Now
ragging
you
my
tripping.
shirt. I'm gonna get back to you with them big ass letters on your shirt in a little while. Anyway, we gonna go this quick break, man, and come back at you real quick, like.
No doubt. Let's get it.
Ear doctor gonna remember his name this time.
Yeah. What's up? What's up, all y'all out there? This is the Remix Morning Show, and I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And it is time for the weather report. In case y'all didn't know, that's what we do right about now. So, where shall we start off? First, I gotta say, please make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button down there, and make sure y'all tell a friend. The Tell a Friend is on again every Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So let them know. Come through. Go to patreon.com and drop some change for Black Power Media, and we're gonna keep this thing going. With that said, let me tell y'all about what's going on in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee, they have a high today of 85 degrees. That's right, 85 degrees. Next, let's take it over to Boise, Idaho. Boise, I don't know too many people that come from Boise, but it is what it is. They got a high today of 61 degrees. Big up to Boise. And then let's go to Marigot, St. Martin, where in the islands, peace to all my people down there in the islands, they got a high today of 89 degrees. Now let's take it over to the motherland. You know we got to find a country over there. Let's go over to Fez, Morocco. They have a high of 86 degrees today. I ain't messing no names up yet, y'all. So I'm just saying, stick with me. I got one right now. Yo, so next, let's go over to where it is colder than the white man. Hasselvik, Iceland, where they have a high today of 32 degrees. And that's cold. That's colder than the white man, but not just your regular white man. Let's talk about the white man that was the producer on the View show, where he came over and told Sonny in Nevada, did I get her name right? Probably not. Whatever. Told them that, yo, you got to leave the scene because y'all tested positive for COVID. So right in the middle of filming, they make these sisters leave the scene, give them a test saying it's positive. Then next thing you know, it's a false positive test. Now, I'm just thinking, yo, these is the rich people that get these positive tests. I'm talking about the test that should be like, yo, rich people get them. So it should be like real, false positive. It make me think, how many people when they got a shot after they got a false positive? I don't know, but that's your news for today. Let's get back to the morning show with the morning crew. You know how we do. Yeah.
So wait a minute, they were on the air live, or they were just filming? He didn't do that live. He didn't like go as they were actually doing the show, and it was like
they're in the middle of filming, and they was just like, yo, you gotta leave this right now, and made them walk off the set. That was crazy.
They did the shame walk, the slut walk.
They had Kamala as the guest, so they had Kamala Harris as guest, so they wanted to get from there.
That's ridiculous.
That is hilarious.
And which begs the question, like, if they didn't, I mean, did they really, was Kamala Harris really the guest?
Yeah. So they actually they ended up taping her from backstage for like 10 minutes or whatever.
So that begs the question, if Kamala Harris wasn't the guest, would they?
Hey, if your name was Robin Harris,
okay.
If your name was Robin Harris, you just be dead. That's what the fuck was
like, you can get the
John said.
You just be looking for a ventilator.
Shout out to Robin.
Report. I catch you on next.
Yes. I want to shout out Yabaruti. You know what I'm saying? A scholar in the community. She shares her born date today with Dr. Jed Ball. She is 60 years old today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She is over the Aqua Institute, her and Walamu Baruti, who we'll have on the show next week. So definitely, shout out to the birthday peoples. But anyway, I think
Libras
it's about
in the building.
You said what?
Libra's in the building.
It is Libra season.
Libra.
You too, Jackie?
October 5th.
Cloud have mercy. The scales of balance.
Yeah, this is just. I'm just the opening act.
You the opening act.
The real. Is coming in a couple of days.
But shout out to Imam Jamil.
Still not off the hook from Saturday.
Who? Man, Jackie, why you bringing up old stuff? Anyway, shout out to Imam Jamil Alameen, formerly H-Rap Brown. His born date is coming up too, October 4th.
Indeed.
Which is another good day. So we're going to take it to some news real quick. Or did we come back from news? Oh, we're going to the news.
We're going to
the
news.
We're going to come back. Hopefully we get a report back from Tierney about her trip to Ghana. Know what I mean? So anyway, we'll be right back with y'all.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thought I was froze for a minute. Okay. How's everybody doing today, man? Y'all feeling good or what?
Absolutely.
I'm feeling.
Okay. I propose next year.
It's the news segment.
I mean, it felt like it for a second, Anyway, we're gonna start off with some news. Tierney was just telling us she got back from the motherland while we was over here in the struggle land. You know what I mean? So get a little report about what's going on over there. We get some feedback.
It was interesting. First time I went to Ghana, I think it was like 3 years ago. It was more like touristy. My husband's Ghanaian, so it just was like, oh, it's easy to go back because I know where to go, and he's not really familiar with any other part of Africa. Unfortunately, that's something I'm working on. So yeah, we decided to go. First time was more like touristy. We just did all like the major things, like Nkrumah Memorial and Canopy Walk, stuff like that. This time was more, I would say, being there. So my in-laws live there. So I got to stay in the community and whatnot. The observations were so much different, I would say. One is like, you kind of see that Ghana is being marketed so much as this country that everyone wants to go to, but it doesn't necessarily work the same, for everyone as we expect inside of capitalist countries. And I don't know if you all heard, there's this movement over in Ghana, Fix the Country right now. Organization, Economic Fighters League is basically the voice of that movement, but a lot of people are complaining just about the disparities because while there's so much development, obviously, in like metropolitan areas, that's not going to translate to the conditions of the masses. And so that was just a real different, I would say, experience this time. One thing that threw me off was just like infrastructure like outside of the developed areas. So something simple like driving, getting around to places. There was one day we went to a wedding. The wedding couldn't have been like more than 10 miles away from my in-laws' house. And it literally took us 5 hours to get back. Like, I've never experienced, like, it wasn't even stop and go traffic. It was just like stop and then wait for 30 minutes and then go. So this is the things that happen, like simple things like developing things for the common people. It doesn't translate inside of the capitalist world. Instead, you see the areas where more money flows. That's where you see things are happening. So it was interesting.
If I heard you correctly, you mentioned something that I haven't looked at as an issue specifically in some years, but it sounds like it may still be going on or has not changed much, which is that a lot of continental Africans don't travel within the continent and don't know a lot about the rest of the continent. And in many ways, it is people from the diaspora that see more of the continent than people from within the continent. And it's just an interesting paradox anyway. So it's
intentional, even, when you're there, you turn on TV, it's, Ghana, or Ghanaians, Ghana, we have these problems. And despite the fact that those problems will literally be the same problems happening next door in Togo or happening in Burkina Faso, it's kind of like this hyper nationalism that gets like that gets depicted as being something that's forward for Africans, but really it just furthers the colonial borders. So yeah, you felt that there too. I mean, to me, it's like at this point in our history, we have to start realizing that our problems are not confined to one area, but are continent wide and diaspora wide as well.
Wow. Speaking of the continent, Congo Week is coming up, and I just got word that we will have a child of a one of the fathers per se of the Congo. One of the children will be joining us here in Black Power Media soon. So stay tuned. We're gonna talk about some things.
Kamal looks confused.
I am. He just said a child of the Congo. I mean,
child of one of the fathers of the Congo. One of Patrice Lumumba's children will be joining us.
Very exciting.
Yeah, so we're working on a particular date right now. So definitely, we want to keep giving you this diasporic news because of the fact that it's important. How about that? Period.
Last year, I went to Ethiopia. Like my family, my wife's Ethiopian, went to Ethiopia, and similarly, there are certain parts that are really more developed, right? Like, and that there's a lot of Chinese infrastructure now coming in that's even connecting Ethiopia to ways it's never been connected before to itself. But there's still those parts which seem either underdeveloped or undeveloped, but have been impacted because either tourists or travelers have come. And so you can see even in places that you feel like are relatively speaking rural or not so-called developed, the moment they see folks who are looking like who are traveling or so forth, it's weird. It's really sad. Like, the kids will come out, they'll start dancing, they'll start doing things, trying to get resources, because whatever the nation state's resources are not reaching to some of those areas, either obviously because of poor planning, misuse of resources, fraud, whatever it is. And so it is, and folks won't, like, we had an opportunity, I think, to go to Kenya, but because of some of the strife or struggle happening in Kenya at the time, Ethiopia was relatively speaking calm. We didn't get a chance to travel across borders ourselves. And so, yeah.
I do have a theory, though. I think that, because one thing is like, everything was so slow, like just going to town, that was a whole day trip. I feel like this is all obviously intentional, because I was just thinking, like, if I was living and working here, like, I could not imagine myself engaging in revolutionary activities, because literally just doing something simple, going to the market, that's a whole day activity. So it's so slow there, and that's something that Africans, like, we have to find a way to organize this in spite of, and that's really difficult because if everything is the conditions are not warranted for activities, that are going to awaken the masses, then what are you going to do? So
yeah,
man, Ghana sounds like the George Washington Bridge during rush hour. I got stuck on that bridge one time. I had to use the bathroom. I was on the bridge for 3 hours, and I'm like, man, should I get out on the bridge and use the bathroom? Came close. I know that was just TMI, but I just had this flashback about that traffic. So I felt your pain. Anyway,
Tierney, we always talk about imperialism on the continent. I'm wondering, like, do you see in the city like the physical manifestation of Western corporations and that kind of thing having a big footprint in the country? Because that's what I've always wondered. We always talk about it, but is it something that you can, like, physically see when you go into certain areas of African countries where you see, like, the operations offices of these Western countries that are not that are headquartered or based in Ghana, but that they're not Ghanaian countries?
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, I think that if you're not someone who's woke, then you probably won't see it, because all you see is that, there used to be nothing here. Now there's this beautiful big building, and you're not necessarily looking at, well, who's owning the building and what corporation and what ties do they have to what governments and things like that. It's funny. I watch a lot of like YouTube videos, like on people who go back to Ghana, and I heard a lot of my brothers and sisters say, I don't feel like racism when I'm inside of Ghana or different parts of Africa. I felt it really bad. Like, and I didn't feel it in the idea of America. I felt it in that, like, everywhere you see poor Africans struggling, trying to just sell something, like that to me is like a manifestation of racism. Whereas if you go to another area, you don't see any of that. You see people who are living their good old lives while the masses are suffering. That to me was more blatant there than what I would feel there. So I think it's about what you're looking for. If you're looking for beauty, if you're looking for beautification, then you might go there and say, oh, this is Wakanda. But if you're looking for people's everyday lives to be improved, then that's not going to be something that's going to satisfy you.
And just like in Ethiopia, they're like, oh, like the thing was about building big hotels. Big hotels became like the malls for either everyday sort of Ethiopians who are looking to experience what they think is Western life or culture in terms of, the indoor restaurants, swimming areas, air conditioning, all that kind of stuff, just palatial. And some of these hotels were like, really nicely built hotels. So they're posh hotels. Then they become like the gathering spot, right? If people want to go, it's almost like, where you want to go tonight? Let's go to the Sheraton or whatever it is, like whatever the hotel is. And folks go there like it's an outing kind of thing. And again, it's that inducement into Western culture, Western themes, Western lifestyle that becomes omnipresent as a way of making it. And even like silly fast food restaurants, right? Again, it's like a good family night out to go to some of these restaurants, and they're waiting for, like, in Ethiopia, for whatever reason, McDonald's has decided not to go there yet, which is a blessing for them. But they think of it as sort of like, we can't wait for this to happen or that to happen, because again, the mindset is that Western stuff is so important to have in order to live a prosperous or good life. So yeah. So that's,
it is. And isn't it still true that no two countries, each with a McDonald's, have ever gone to war with each other? Isn't that the point that Ben Barber or whoever I think made some years ago? That's the symbol of imperial safety.
Just
get a McDonald's.
Golden arches, huh?
Meanwhile, you don't have to worry about another empire. If North Korea had a McDonald's, they'd probably be safer.
The
world would be better.
Tell that to the brothers and sisters on the streets of Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Philly, and all these other places where brothers.
They're not feeling good.
Work.
It's not all good in these places.
Hey, man,
they have plenty of McDonald's, and in fact, McDonald's is employing them.
They might need a McDowell's. That might help out. You got to look into that.
Those good college grants or scholarships they give for that's not working out, that they give for their employees.
And where would we be in commemorating Dr. King were it not for McDonald's?
Oh man, Kamal mentioned McDonald's, the malls being built. There's a mall out here. I want to shout them out. South DeKalb Mall. I'm looking on this on this video. For the second time in 2 months, they've had cases of big ass rats running around the food court. You know what I mean? So they have a video of this inside the mall. You know what I mean? So you just made me think of that joint right there, because I saw this clip last night. I'm like, wow. And then they showed one of the security guards who actually taped the rats, a couple rats playing in one of the food court restaurants. They all up on the shelves, the whole nine or whatever. So, so when you want imperialism, the rats come with it.
Well, and what's wild was that, if I remember correctly, if I understood this correctly, the mall was the invention of socialists who were trying to limit the sprawl of capitalist enterprise all over the landscape. So that was supposed to be the point, to let everybody safely, quietly, and in one location do all of this so that the rest of our landscape could be beautiful and open and peaceful and free. But of course,
capitalism.
Yeah. Capitalism said, "What? Another idea we can take?
Oh,
we can work with this."
Capitalism. What?
This This is too useful. No.
Yeah,
Get them all
yeah,
in one space. We'd be good.
yeah. Full-time Jack move. Shout out to Al Unique talking about something. We better not say nothing about New York no more when we talking about big rats. New York, the king of the rats. Stop playing, man. They be taking your bags and shit. You go to the subway, they be helping you carry. Sir, may I help you with this bag? You know what I'm
Ain't no
saying?
rats in New York, son. I
Oh
don't know what
my
you're talking
goodness.
about.
What they
And
moved to
nobody's
Atlanta?
going to antagonize New York, but someone from Connecticut. You know,
Hey man,
so,
I'm just
it would
trying
have
to
That's
tell
all
you.
we care about. What else we got going on in the news?
Yes, let's start with that. We talking about rats and malls and mall
Perfect
rats.
segue.
Yes. Who want to start it off, man?
I mean, you got the story about R. Kelly. I figure if we talk about rats,
Yes, let's talk about rats.
The Pied Piper.
I wanted to
yeah, that's even
say
better.
that because we may have a guest to talk about R. Kelly, someone from the trial.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hold on to that one for a minute. We might revisit it if not. But anyway, what I can do though, there's a situation in. Hold on, man. I'm feeling like you. I'm feeling like I'm 50 today, Jared. Hold on, I'm hitting all these damn buttons.
You're supposed to be used to being over 50.
I know. Hold on, man.
You and
But anyway,
He's younger than you, Jack.
Don't forget. I'm the young one. I'm the young one.
I disagree with that, brother.
Of the gentleman on the screen. Don't forget that. I'm the little brother.
Oh wow.
Oh. Did Kalonji?
Oh wow.
Okay, there he is.
Yeah, we do have to work on our
We have to work on our
demographics and our tech skills because Kalonji is
We definitely got to work on that.
The wind is blowing.
There we go.
Black Google.
Yeah, y'all chill out. But anyway, Black Google. I wanted to bring up this story because there was a Black Google product manager who stopped by security because they didn't believe he was an employee. Now, I happen to know that Google has like an entire campus. And on this large, huge, gigantic campus, whatever, they find this one black dude that's riding his bicycle. Brother by the name of Angel Onuwaha. I just did my ear doctor moment. He's a graduate of Harvard University and co-founder of the black-run hedge fund BLK Capital Management. He said he was riding his bike on the Google campus and someone decided to call security on him because of the fact they didn't believe he's an employee. He was escorted by 2 guards to verify his badge. And when he got to where he needed to go, they told him, look, we're going to hold on to this badge to the end of the day because of the fact that we want to make sure, that things are right. So Google responded and they said that, we've been having a lot of trouble with the badges. So we wanted to make sure.
Is that what the problem was?
Yeah, the problem was the badges. There's a lot of issues.
Those damn badges.
Yeah, like we didn't.
Kind of like the problem at the border was the horses and not the fucking racism.
Not the whips. Not the dudes with the whips.
Damn
horses. How the hell you rolling up here like that? Yeah.
Tarnation.
I mean, exactly. He's a tarnation. Speaking of tarnation, did y'all see Al Sharpton get shut down over there at the border? He's doing a press conference, man. His cat was like yelling at the poor guy and everything. Al Sharpton looking like bobblehead Fred, shaking his shit. But yeah. So I mean, it's just crazy. So if Google can have trouble with their badges, Claude, have mercy.
I was gonna say I saw in that story, Harvard.
Yes.
Capital,
yes,
hedge funds,
yeah,
and still couldn't ride.
And my man was from the continent. I mean, he's like, you from the continent and you graduate from Harvard. You a bad motherfucker. Hey,
you
like,
need
look.
To tell me being a hedge fund manager and owning your own hedge fund firm is not going to insulate you from racism? You mean black capitalism ain't go? Oh my stars!
My man said they held him for a couple hours and that he missed his bus. So he like, look, this is the American dream. I'm cruising on my bike through Google campus and whatnot. I got my Harvard grad. You know what I'm saying? I'm rolling, and all of a sudden they say, "Excuse me, Mr. Nigga." Moi?
And remember, this is we have to add that this is also reminiscent of the way, and we've talked about, I know a lot on this platform. White folks have inserted themselves in that Pan-African disunity process by welcoming many from the continent and then saying you don't want to associate with them cousins of yours from over here. So, and then some fall into that trap and welcome that. And then here we go. This is your reminder. Like at the end of the day, when you want a bike, you know what I'm saying? They can't tell what part of the diaspora you came from. And
Not
clearly the badge can't either.
Hey. I don't know. Did y'all see the story? And forgive me if y'all already reported on this, but it was like last week out in the UK. There was a government official who basically said, like, I don't care about colonialism. She was African. On the UK.
Yeah,
Y'all cover that?
I did see that. I don't think
we
covered
didn't
that.
cover it though. So you can bring it if you got it.
You're
no, I mean, I don't
there.
have the whole story written out, but it was just a reminder of how, we're kind of fed into this idea that being a part of empire is some type of way to absolve us from the issues that Africans deal with. But she straight up said, I do not care about colonialism, African women in the UK.
Sure.
And you just like, but that's how you got to, okay.
Right. And that's why Africa is dealing and struggling right now. The very reason why your people are suffering, but you don't care about it. But a lot of people don't say it, but I was actually happy that it came out, because if we're honest, that's kind of the implicit messaging that's happening. I mean, whenever you are, Google to me is just as imperialistic as, a government. And the fact that we have so many Africans that go into these corporations and think that they're not going to deal with the backdrop of some of the things that their company does, it's just telling that we're kind of told, do not care or do not challenge the system. Be okay with the system. You might not outwardly say it, but certainly do not challenge it.
In fact, these vast corporations are the new government, right? They are governments, basically. They have more, their GDP or profit margins or revenue are bigger than a lot of governments these days, and the vast land holdings and so forth. So they've created their fiefdoms. And you're right, like, so in the same thing applies. It's not like you escape white supremacy because you've entered some a new nation state that's owned by those same white supremacists, which have taken over different apparatuses around the world. And in this case, Google will promote things that promote Western imperialism, Western views, Western culture, right? And so they'll promote that, and then you got to get down with the platform and know your place, right? And you should be happy that you got stopped. You still got that job, right? So keep it quiet.
At least you got to be on people's campus.
Yeah, I mean, you could have been stuck in Ghana riding on the highway with Tierney, you know what I'm saying, for 5 hours. Instead, you riding your bicycle through Google campus. What's wrong with you, man?
Talk about you complaining.
Complaining for.
Exactly. Some of your badge, nigga. You could be being pulled over by another badge in Compton. But nah, you trying to have problems with the Google badge. They be tripping, man. Badges, anyway, speaking of badges, the UN, there's a story about the UN, about the UN, the US, Israel, so on and so forth. I think someone has a story on the UN we can go to. Speaking of racist bastards.
Yeah, Tierney's about to tell us how the UN is giving us reparations.
Oh, goody.
No, it's interesting. So this year was the commemoration of the Durban conference that happened 20 years ago on racism, xenophobia. And if anyone knows like what happened at that conference, like literally what happened is that Africans who came together, like, all right, we're going to demand reparations. And you had also indigenous people really from all over the world, and the United States, Israel, like walked out. So here we are now, 20 years later, the commemoration, and all of a sudden, the Western countries all simultaneously had somewhere better to be. They all had to attend some meeting about COVID, whereas all the African countries, indigenous countries, Latin American countries just happened to go to the meeting that they were talking about racism and colonialism and reparations. So it's very funny, how blatant things can be whenever you're actually talking about demanding things from the people. But I just wanted to bring that story forth. I don't know what your thoughts are.
It's consistent.
I mean, yeah.
It's a remembrance of like.
And wait, it was in New York,
20
right?
years ago.
Yeah.
They like, look, we don't have nobody in New York that can go to this meeting. You know what I'm saying? It's right at the United Nations headquarters. And they're like, look, it's not even happening. So it's just, amazingly racist bastards that they are,
They
But
don't
it's
feel a need.
perfect.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
what's the for them? It's like, what's the purpose? Their things are going
Right.
as well as they feel can be expected. There are no major radical or revolutionary movements happening, right? You know, all the infighting, it's conflict, which is not about overturning the system, but just having their piece of the system, right? So, and in fact, those conflicts help break down some of these nation states into smaller nation states, which again help is easier for control. It's easier to sell weapons to. So I don't think they feel the need to even respond. And, you know, back again, if we go way back in history at the stage, 60s and 70s and 50s, when there was an anti colonial movement, they felt the need to at least be on the international stage to respond to accusations. And in fact, I would dare to say that most of the folks who are talking at these conferences who are African or Latin American or Asian are not bringing things up within the context of anti-colonialism, but are instead asking for more corporations to come for their land to be opened up and so forth and so on. And so they'll send Google. That's their representative. And talk to Google. They want to come to your
Or they're
land.
trying to get free or cheaper vaccines or something.
Yeah.
So in terms of Europe the Europeans having their COVID meeting, deciding, you know, if we give vaccines to these folks, they'll have to go into debt permanently to get them. Or they just won't get them. The rest of the world is saying, you know, as usual, as every conference we've all ever been to, there's always the colored section that gets cordoned off, whether by de jure or de facto. The black and brown folks always get into their own spaces. The white folks are not there. And it just happens. It's the same. And here they are just saying, nah, we are not interested in that. We weren't interested at the original joint. We're not interested now.
And they cried. I mean, they cried racism because last time when they walked out, it was around the whole Israel-Palestine issue.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So these motherfuckers, it's like the police. They'll beat your ass and then charge you with assault and battery on the police officer. You know what I'm saying? But there were a couple African nations that spoke out this time. I know South Africa, what's his name? Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. He called for restitution for slavery. He said that millions of descendants of Africans who were sold into slavery remain trapped in lives of underdevelopment, disadvantage, discrimination, and poverty. And South Africa calls on the United Nations to put the issue of reparations for victims of the slave trade on its agenda. He said, we support the adoption of special measures, including affirmative action programs and targeted financial assistance as restitution to communities whose ancestors were sold into slavery. And then the Jamaican foreign minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith, said that millions of lives are ruined by the transatlantic slave trade, as well as for the structural underdevelopment that our people have faced since emancipation. You know what I mean? Cuba spoke out. President Miguel Diaz-Canel said something about he criticized capitalist countries that tried to divert attention from their historical debts. And the Chinese ambassador said that the relevant countries should at least have the courage to face up to this disgraceful past and take measures to end suffering caused by their practices. So there's a few voices at this particular meeting. But some of the other notables who did not attend, not only did the United States and Israel, the usual suspects, not attend, but Australia, Austria, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Honduras, the UK, so it's and tons of others.
Honduras?
Honduras?
Hey man,
Honduras.
How
dare you, Honduras? How dare you? You know,
and also Dominican Republic. So you know, a number of other different countries, but
no one's too
you know,
I was gonna say they were up there watching Lin-Manuel whatever's, you know, the Heights joint and got excited. And it was like, we trying to buy in all the way.
They said we good.
Supporting the white folks. Hey, but look, because I know, hey, Kalijah, real quick, because I know the ear doctor's coming up. I want to shout out to him and by demonstrating how the white world felt about those African comments.
Yeah, that lost his damn mind, boy. You know, went from 50 The spliffy. Anyway, that's what happens at Uncle Nearest in the morning. I'm trying to tell y'all. But now that he's gone, now we can have the real news. So, Jackie, what you got to say? What kind of news you got for us today before we bring the Ed Doctor on?
I don't have a whole lot of news other than, this whole government shutdown, debt ceiling. The Democrats are a bunch of spineless cowards, kind of. The whole government funding watch is just beginning. I think it was just announced that the Republicans did what they said they were going to do, and they voted against the funding bill, the $3.5 trillion fund, the emergency funding that the Democrats passed that included the debt ceiling. So the Republicans said they weren't going to vote for that because they wanted the debt ceiling provision separated from any funding. It's a political ploy. I can't even explain it to you because I don't even understand it entirely myself, but it's politicians being politicians playing politics. They did that. So now the Democrats are shoved into a corner, having to basically sacrifice that $3.5 trillion spending bill, which comes with all of the social safety net programs, all of that funding, and they're probably going to scuttle that so that they can vote on the infrastructure bill and then get the debt ceiling passed, because I think the point is that the Republicans don't want to vote for the $3.5 trillion spending bill because that's all the money for poor folks, and we all know they don't give a fuck about poor folks. So we'll see how this plays out on Thursday, which is September 30th, which is the day that federal funding for a lot of programs expire, which that's just another piece of bullshit. Money that it doesn't expire. But they do this every year, and we'll see if the government shuts down, if the Democrats can, I don't know, grow a spine and vote for something. But I guarantee you, I don't think it'll be that $3.5 trillion spending.
No, Pelosi already said yesterday. I'm sorry, Pelosi already said yesterday, I believe, that it's not going to be that much. She was already walking it back, like it's not, Yeah. And then if you look at it, it's got some nice sounding things in it, but it doesn't. It's still a lot of big giveaways to some of the major industries and corporations.
It's a lot of big giveaways, and people need to keep in mind when they hear these big numbers, $3.5 trillion. That's over 10 years. That's not like in the next fiscal year they're going to spend all this money. No, that's over 10 years. So really, it's not anywhere close to what's really, really needed. And by the time the Republicans get finished, by Thursday, I bet you it won't be half that, if it will be voted on at all. I think the only thing that's going to be voted on is the infrastructure bill and the debt ceiling provision as a separate entity, because that's what the Republicans want. But I don't know. We'll see.
The other interesting part of it is again, looking back a few years ago, the Democrats never tactically used this as a way to force anything out of the Trump administration.
Nope.
So when the vote came, the Democrats always voted to lift the debt ceiling. The Republicans, who, like you said, just don't give a fuck, because they're out to win. They're holding it ransom, knowing even what the consequences of it could be in terms of people not getting their Social Security checks, uninsured folks not getting paid, government services stopping, whatever those services are. They are willing to say, we will sacrifice all of that to force the Democrats to heal and to not put forth any infrastructure bill that at least they supposedly believe in it's supposed to improve the economy, right? And so that's one of the main differences, is that you have a party that will stand by whatever fake principles they have, because they raised the debt ceiling themselves, and now they're talking about inflation and too much government spending. But of course, when they had the same power, they did exactly the same thing, but they did it, whatever trough of money that they were giving away, they gave it to their favorites. And so it was okay. And the Democrats went along with it. So You have here a party that's forcing the Democrats' hand, and on the Democrat side, they can't even agree because they have this really moderate for West Virginia, I guess, who's holding everything up, or one person who's holding everything up.
Manchin.
Yeah,
Joe
Manchin. So it's not the radical side. It's not the so-called leftists. It's not the liberal leftists of the Democratic Party who are saying, "Give us this, or else we won't do that." Right? You have this one guy saying, "This is what I demand," and it's not going to happen. You're not even going to get this to the floor unless I get what I want.
And then there was a young Republican on the floor yesterday talking about this is socialism and Marx would be proud and all this stuff. So all the same language comes out, and then the Democrats all cave and back up. It's a nice little dance. It's choreographed.
I think AOC about to get a new dress. While she
Lord.
gets her
Start
new
crying
dress
again.
she gonna, mama,
Voting
mama,
present.
mama.
Present.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just real quick. AOC with changing her vote on the Iron Dome funding from no to present was some cowardly bullshit. I
That's
just
punk ass shit.
and then she's gonna cry on the House floor. I mean, I know I go hard at AOC, but there's a reason. There's a reason. She is. She is a master performer. And I just don't, if people do not realize how completely useless this person is, I just don't, if this last antic with the Iron Dome funding doesn't convince you, I don't know what to tell you, and you're hopeless, because that was just some trifling mess. And then she gets on Twitter and apologizes.
Punk ass tweet. With that in mind,
Let me get my composure back. I'm sorry.
no doubt. And the Academy Award goes to AOC.
It looks like Ear Doctor is hanging with some Academy Award winners. Who's
Okay.
Like
So, well, let's go to his award show. I'm sure it's livelier.
Hey, I'm just coming with some entertainment news. Let y'all know what's going on in the entertainment world. So,
Is that
get to
Medea?
Okay.
yeah, we got
Again, Oprah look alike.
Jay, Beyonce, Rihanna, Tyler, entertainers.
I just realized Jay-Z and Oprah kind of look alike. Look at their faces, just like if you like distort their face a little bit. Never mind. Let's go to the.
We're gonna get you some glasses. All right, let's get to it, y'all.
No doubt.
Remix.
In the building.
Boy, speaking of glasses, I'm about blind. Anyway, let's get to the entertainment news for the day. Pretty much, I'm sure if you weren't under a rock, you've already heard that R. Kelly has been convicted of racketeering and sex trafficking. In the words of my homeboy Fish, about time. So that's the news with R. Kelly back. Now I'm just playing. All right, so the next news we got is hip-hop star Yo Gotti. He joins the DC United ownership group. So pretty much, like I said, first of all, we talked about your boy R. Kelly. Yeah, he got his. Now I'm talking about, in case you don't know, this rapper named Yo Gotti out of Memphis. He is now part owner of the DC United soccer team. I know Jared is very happy about that. Next, what we have is Nelly. Nelly is now Cornell Haynes Jr. He has his own meal at Burger King. So you can see a lot of these rappers are out getting a bag. You also see that Travis Scott, what is her name? Sweetie. She also has a meal at McDonald's. So they are actually out here going after the bag for real. And it's funny how these fast food, not good food places are, using these people to get some more customers. That's what it is. But speaking of having their own types of food packages and stuff, you guess who is coming out with a new one? That's right. JB's Mama's Biscuits is going to be in the store near you very soon. JB's Mama's Biscuits. He is now promoting this new biscuit, so go check out JB's Mama's Biscuits. That is another one that's coming out. And then next, let's take it over to Kelly Price. Kelly Price, singer, known. She was looked at as people thought she was missing and stuff like that, but she's not missing. She's been battling COVID, and she is going to be all right. Hopefully, prayers up for her. And then let's talk about failures. One of the failures that tried to get it done but didn't get it done was no other than John Hinckley Jr., the guy that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan. This guy has just got an unconditional release. So he's no longer living with his mom. They said, yo, live your life now. You tried to take down the president and you failed. But that's what it is with John Hinckley. Other than that, in music news, we got some new albums coming out. We got Anthony Hamilton dropping an album called Black, just came out. We also got West Side Guns, who's dropping an album called Hitler Wears Hermes. Yeah. And then we got D-Smoke, a very nice conscious West Coast rapper who is dropping an album called War and Wonders. And that is your entertainment news for today. Now, let's take it back to the morning crew. You know how we do. All right. And speaking of entertainment, make sure y'all check out Sundays on Sunday, 8 p.m. We rocked out. This Sunday did B-sides. We're going to mix it up and do something else next Sunday. That's what it is. Now let's take it back to the morning crew. Yo.
Trying to tell you.
The Mama's Biscuits, there they go. JB's
Your deal is with Popeyes? You got to deal with Popeyes, brother? Is that what it's like? Who you deal with?
Oh, Jangles.
Get those good Mama's Biscuits. The funkiest biscuits coming out of Western Maryland.
Nice.
1997, 1999.
That biscuit is from 1997, B? Is that what you're trying to say? You saved that from one of your performances?
No, you know how at the bottom biscuit. Of the, you know, on the bottom of the package, it'll say, the store will say established in 18, whatever, established in 1997. Mama's Biscuits. Nothing better than Mama's Biscuits.
Hey, Jared, so did you watch DC United soccer?
I do watch DC United soccer, and this is big news. And in fact, DC United, the striker you all need, lives in my basement right now. So come holler at your boy. We need to make a deal. I got the number 9 that you all need living right here.
And speaking of Jay-Z, I'm hearing that he's looking at acquiring the Denver, Colorado. What is it? The Denver
Broncos.
Yeah. So everybody in this rap world is getting to these bags. I see. You know,
well, yeah, I mean, that was the sacrifice. That was the deal. Tell Kaepernick to take a knee and everybody to be quiet. And Jay-Z gets what, like what will be a minority, I'm sure, ownership in the Broncos.
Usually he's pushed. What they do is they push them forward as if their face matters. And like they own like 3%. And behind the scenes, it's like there's still some corporate white man who owns like 60% or 50% or whatever like that. So, but you do have you have the North Carolina Panthers, which is owned by the guy who started a Black News channel.
Really?
So, we spoke about that.
Bob Johnson?
Yeah, no, he's the Jacksonville Jaguars owner.
It's Jacksonville, okay.
Is
Byron
somewhere out there?
No, he's an Indian guy.
Yeah, he's Indian. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he owns.
This is pro football. Kamal was confusing his sports.
The teams. The teams. I said the Panthers. I knew it was sport, brother.
It's badminton, brother.
Bocce ball.
You mentioned R. Kelly. I see all the women went away.
That's all it takes.
That's all it took.
They run for the hills. You say R. Kelly, they got to scatter. And for their safety.
Yeah.
They weren't young enough. You know what I'm saying? So, them motherfucker, that low down bastard. Speaking of R. Kelly, I think we're gonna call up one of his attorneys, not one of his attorneys, one of the attorneys of one of the victims or whatever. Maybe have him on in the next during this hour at some point.
I'll catch y'all next break.
I would love to talk to one of R. Kelly's atteries if they wanted to show up. I'd love to hear from them.
How do you right now? So
it's gonna be. How do you put that together? What's it like to take that case?
Yeah, like you definitely about the money because you have no integrity, clearly. But anyway,
no, everybody deserves legal defense, right, Kamal? That's the
way it's supposed to work.
the standard, right?
That's the way.
Kamal, that sounds like a setup, right, Kamal?
No, well, no, that's the way it's supposed to work. Innocent before proven guilty. So that's actually not even a bad system, right? Because otherwise, people can just make accusations and send your ass to jail. So having some system of where somebody who's accused of something gets their quote unquote day in court, and other folks have to present evidence to suggest that they did what it is that they said they did. It's not of all the systems, that potentially should work or could work. With some fine tuning, I'm not that mad at it. I'm mad at it in practice in the United States, particularly as it applies to Black folks. Yeah. But a system in which people are innocent before proven guilty, it's something that I think we need to hold on to and make it work.
I mean, it's definitely great in theory. I mean, if that shit was actually, you know what I'm saying, if it actually worked like that, man, I mean, shit, you might see me with a flag. It'd be an RBG flag, but I still have a flag.
Speaking of flags, since we have a few minutes here, have you guys heard the controversial, I guess this is a social media controversy, but then Gerald Horne spoke to the former communications director for Bernie Sanders about it. So what basically the setup is I guess there's folks in the white left who are pushing a patriotic theme in terms of battling against sort of right-wing attacks or capitalism. So in other words, they're saying the way to win over, thank you, Brianna Joy Gray, the way to win over the masses is to be more patriotic towards America, to use the rhetoric of patriotism as opposed to giving that up. And in that way, we'll be able to win over more folks to the left side. And so this seemed to be a battle that was happening on social media a week or so ago. And somebody just mentioned the name in the chat, Brianna Joy Gray, who had an interesting conversation with Dr. Gerald Horne about the theme. And Gerald Horne just kept hitting on, if you want to be patriotic, that's fine with you. But what kind of patriotism are you talking about? Because you're not selling me on that 1776 theory of like the U.S. was anything other than a settler colonial state. And what is this history that I'm supposed to be embracing? So
I think that's a great point, and that's a very white sounding conversation that they were having, and it's something that I remember when I used to hang around what was then known as the media reform movement earlier in the 2000s. At one of I remember John Nichols had published the S Word book about socialism in the United States. And if I remember correctly, it was making that same kind of argument in defense of socialism, with the idea being that socialism has been every part and every bit as American as everything else. If you go through the history, of course, one of his glaring errors is that people like Du Bois and Paul Robeson show up as footnotes, if at all. And it's a very white focus, because that's, of course, the conversation that they're having, because Black involvement messes up the conversation, even if you were talking about Black socialists, when it comes to the question of patriotism and trying to push this. So I mean, again, it would be a very white only tactic, because I don't think a lot of the world's majority representatives are going to have much feeling for that. But and I wouldn't feel, I'm not, that wouldn't move me, But if it encourages some white liberals to get at their white conservative family members, to get into that argument instead of just sort of drifting over to some darker spaces to make their arguments against their white colleagues, I think that works, because traditionally white liberals just kind of want to hang out with Black folks a little bit to get their anger off at their white comrade or their white family that they can't talk to for real. So they come around, Black people like socialism and radicalism, and then they go home and they're like so but if this encourages them to get into it, get into it.
There's one person I want to hear that from, because of the fact that there's a very important scholar out here today, and I think that if we don't get his word and his view, then perhaps it won't be the proper thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Boyce Dr. Boyce Ball is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a beautiful thing. Happy birthday to my brother. You know what I'm saying?
That's messed up. That's a good one, though. That's a good one. And perfectly timed right now.
Yes.
Because in some certain nationalist circles in the Baltimore area, cats got mad at me for saying that boys ain't the choice, and so
you became him.
So that's funny. Yeah, so I went ahead and became him. I like that. And if that's what it needs to, if that's what it takes to get me on the Breakfast Club, because that is my goal.
Hey, man.
And so be it.
You stuck with us, man. You know what I'm saying? Your biscuits will only be on the Remix Morning Show.
I can see you being on the Breakfast Club. See that? What?
So there is. So what's funny is behind the scenes, apparently, someone I know a little bit knows Charlemagne very well. They go back, and if what I've seen is accurate, there's been an attempt to get Charlemagne to read my book and then interview me, because he does not agree apparently with the broader argument. And
he reads.
He claims he does. He claims he would even read the book, and he claims that he might be even willing to interview me if the book proves me worthy. But so we'll see. That would be interesting if it ever did happen. I'm not hopeful. But again, that is my goal, because if I can get away from YouTube and get elevate myself in these YouTube streets, I'm out as soon as possible.
You're gonna be out
as soon as possible.
Are you saying that you leave the Remix Morning Show, brother?
Hey, if I could get routine status on the Breakfast Club, they're gonna be like, if they say off air, you got to cut them to get a return visit. It's a wrap.
Can you? Hey. I see the meme tomorrow. I see the meme coming tomorrow with you up in the Breakfast Club crew.
Hell yeah.
This is as close as you're going to get right here, brother. This is as close as you're going to get.
The funny thing is I can barely tell the difference between his normal look.
Exactly.
Now you're going too far. Now
yeah, they try to say you got one. That's you said you got a chrome dome, brother. I don't know if you.
That's.
You did wrong, man. But check it, man. You have a story about was it Assange or
Oh yeah, well the story came out apparently, which I thought was interesting, because I got it from my man Sam Husseini's outlet, Institute for Public Accuracy. But apparently this was reported in Yahoo News that there was a CIA plot to assassinate Julian Assange, and the short of it is that the CIA didn't want to have to go through what the Justice Department was saying they would have to go through to prove their case. So what ended the CIA? The CIA didn't want to have to go through whatever legal channels they would need to go through to kill Assange. So they were going to go ahead and push forward on some plot. And the Justice Department, according to this story, actually charged Assange and locked him up to protect him from being rendered and assassinated by the CIA. So as I've highlighted here, rather than go to Congress or leak certain details to the press, the Justice Department decided it was best to indict Assange so the CIA would no longer be able to mount aggressive operations in the shadows. And now we learn the CIA has appointed itself the authority to redefine journalists as, quote, information brokers and media organizations as, quote, hostile entities to help them justify offensive operations intended to disrupt journalism. So that's what the CIA had done. They had defined Assange as a hostile entity, and he and WikiLeaks as a hostile entity, and went into, I guess, what are Vault 7, their Vault 7 materials that got published, and shows that CIA Director Mike Pompeo was apparently obsessed with Julian Assange, and he had the CIA label him as a hostile entity so that they could start talking about kidnapping, rendering, and even sketching out plans to assassinate him. So beyond Julian Assange, who I do think should be free, should be supported, of course, as should all the other predating, longer held political prisoners who have done a lot of the same kind of work, albeit in different ways with different technologies. What it's also showing is that any of us who are producing information, producing journalism or media that threatens state power could be deemed as hostile entities and thusly targeted. So that is a little spooky. And then the idea that to be saved from the CIA's hit teams, you have to be indicted and put in, solitary confinement and whatever, is crazy. So
I mean, that's some wild shit. And they actually, we live in a quote unquote country or nation that will actually, where it's cool to report this shit and no one really cares. It's like, you would think in most civilized countries, this would be top news. Or had it been a New York Times reporter or a reporter from the Wall Street Journal or from CNN, then the scandal would have been crazy. Can you imagine?
But that's what's even more wild. The New York Times and them all get Pulitzer Prizes for writing stories leaked by Julian Assange, while he gets all of this, and they get their careers boosted. And then, to your point, it's not going to happen to them. But if it did, people would be they would be tripping. Like, what, unless there had been all this propaganda laid out, as has been the case with Assange, that you are a rapist and you are, you're getting soldiers killed and you are an enemy. By then the American public is like, oh man, that's what he gets.
Hey, we got to do one of them ancestor DNA tests. Assange might have 2% black.
John Brown.
You know what I'm saying? He about because they try to lock.
Apparently the blonde hair is fake. I thought that was part of, or had been faked at one point. I don't know. Don't get me started. I don't know. I may be wrong on that. But so maybe he is trying to dye out his
it dyes black this
remaining melanin.
Let me find out that Assange is actually what's your boy name? Used to play basketball with the blonde hair and the nose ring.
His name was really Assange. It's like Assange from somewhere West Africa. Assange,
brother Assange.
Was Assange.
Anyway, something bad wrong with y'all, man. Speaking of Assange,
I don't know, what could that be a segue?
I'm waiting.
Me too. I'm gonna let that slide right now. Anyway, we have a guest this hour coming up right after the Ed Doctor. We know that we can't. There's an elephant in the room, the whole R. Kelly situation, and we've been talking about it for years on our different platforms through our Black Power Media. So today I'm like, man, let me reach out to someone who was somewhat close to the case or whatever. He was an attorney for one of the victims. So we're gonna have him on in a few seconds. But we want to go to the Ed to the Doctor real quick and see what he's gonna hit us with, because ain't no telling what kind of WikiLeaks he gonna leak.
Hey, you know that. So we've been talking about verses and stuff, but I want to talk about a Black Power Media verses that we had and do a flashback real quick. For those who haven't seen it, actually, Black Power Media started this versus a while ago. So we're going to go to a quick flashback, and I'm going to show y'all. So let's get to it.
Scared to know. Remix.
Me too. Remixed.
Yeah. What's up, good people? Like I said, we've been doing verses here on Black Power Media for a while now. What we want to do now is take you to one of the verses that we did. And this is funny. A lot of people might not be able to see it right now. They might be driving or whatever. But if you could see the faces on Kalanji, Kamal, and Ball's face, it was hilarious. But check this out real quick. Let's go to this verses. This was Black Power Media versus ADOS. Let's go to it.
I heard you say that you're a nationalist. I'm glad to hear that. We need to build a national politics and have a national identity. Most Black people on here don't even know who they are. At the end of the day, if you understand that you're an African, but you don't understand that you're a descendant of U.S. chattel slavery in America, a citizen, and you got a right to everything here, plus the country owes you specifically because there wouldn't even be a country without you. That's different than coming here and immigrating by will and still having acts of injustice happen to you. That's what we're saying at the end of the day. We're saying no disrespect to any other Black people. We love Black people, but you still came here by will. You came here by will. This is where the slave boats dropped us, as Kwame Ture said. We are specific, as Kwame Ture said himself. The African in America was the only person who had a trip here and knew it was going to be held. Everybody else came here by will. Guess what that means? That means even Kwame Ture, who was born in Trinidad, came here by will. Did he still deal with injustice? Hell yeah, he did. He's black in America. He catches hell. But he's not carrying the crude disadvantage that the people that he's born already have. Thank you.
Woo. All right. So now I think with the 30-second question or comment with a 2 to 3 minute response. Honestly, I've lost track of the sheet. Who's supposed to start? Yo,
I believe Ibrahim.
Go ahead, brother.
Ibrahim, yeah. If he has any questions or
if you have a question, like, because we only allotted 20 minutes for this round. So if you don't have a particular question or comment, we don't have to use it. But I just wanted to the next round is open, so a more open conversation.
Back in the day, that was our version of Versus back in the day. So check that out. It was BPM versus ADOS. I want to bring them back on to see what they thought about that real quick before we get to our guests. So let's go ahead and do that, y'all.
Wow.
Set y'all up with that one, huh?
Yeah, I didn't know you were going there. I mean, actually, the first 2/3 of his commentary wasn't even crazy. It was when he threw in a part, for me at least, the Kwame Ture thing, Stokely Carmichael, as if somehow he swam to Trinidad or some shit like that. He boarded a plane to Trinidad and then he decided to come to America. I mean, it's like, so what part of the transatlantic slave trade did you not understand? We were landed in several different areas across the continental North and South America. I just didn't understand that part.
That was early BPM for folks who are not familiar with that. I think that took place in like February or something. I thought that shit was lost somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But that had to be the craziest on stage camera anything that I've ever. I mean, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. So thank you, Ear Doctor, for bringing us back to that moment.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, thanks. No problem, man.
Yeah, that was traumatic, man. I think I need us to get to our guests because I was trying to watch that from my memory anyway. You know.
Anyway, you brothers gonna join me for our next guest or what? Of course you
down.
I just invited you. Anyway, we'll be right back. We'll be right back with our guest, Attorney Gerald Griggs. What's happening, good people? We're in the building. Attorney Gerald Griggs, what's happening, my man?
What's going on, my brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, man. We ain't seen you in a while. Last time we saw you was on Renegade Culture. It's been
that was a while ago, and that was a very interesting episode.
As he says, deadpan.
I forgot it was a damn sure interesting episode.
Yes,
that was
Red
Cup
Attorney right there. He's like, why the hell am I on here with you folks?
Yeah. And who put this in my red cup? But anyway, good to see you on deck. I actually reached out to Attorney Griggs probably about an hour before showtime today. I'm like, man, we're gonna be talking about R. Kelly. Why can't we just reach out? We couldn't reach Robert Kelly, so we said, look, let's reach out to Gerald Griggs and see if he can come on board.
So he's a little busy right now, Kalonji.
Yeah, of course he's busy, man. It's all good.
Robert's a little busy now.
He's a little busy. But Gerald Griggs, Attorney Griggs, man, you were a part of this particular case. Can you give us a rundown? We haven't really discussed R. Kelly at all today. We wanted to save all the good stuff for you and get from a legal perspective. So give us a little run.
Well, I've been involved in the Robert Sylvester Kelly case since about 2017. When I was hired by the Savage family to try to reunite them with their daughter, Joycelyn Savage. And then I was, after that, hired by two of the accusers of Robert Sylvester Kelly to help amplify this. And so we've been fighting since 2017 to get attention around this case. There have been 3 documentaries. We've spoken to countless members of law enforcement, and it ultimately culminated in 4 different cases against Robert Sylvester Kelly, including the Eastern District of New York, for violations of the Racketeering and the Mann Act. And so yesterday, after 4.5 weeks of trial, 50 witnesses, the jury spent about 9 hours in reviewing this case and returned a guilty verdict on all counts. And so that's what the bombshell news was yesterday. It went around the world that Robert Sylvester Kelly has been convicted of racketeering as well as violations of the Mann Act. And so, as I said before, I represent several families, several of the victims. I know a majority of the accusers. I've interviewed them, and we've gone through this case for such a long time that I'm relieved to say that the jury has believed these accusers, and now Mr. Kelly has been convicted. So now we're in the process of getting ready for his sentencing, which will take place in May of 2022, and getting ready for the other 3 cases. So that's kind of the rundown of where we are. And, I take any questions you guys have.
Now, can you quickly just tell people what the Mann Act is and why? So obviously, R. Kelly was sort of obviously accused of sexual assault. How does the conspiracy charges also play into that and what he was convicted of, just for the audience?
Okay, for the audience, the reason why he was charged with violation of the RICO, the Conspiracy Racketeering Act, is because the allegation was he used his fame and stardom and the enablers around him, bodyguards, managers, lawyers, and many others, to use his fame to facilitate the trafficking of young women that were underage for the purpose of sex. And the violation of the Mann Act is that he transported these underage women across state lines for an illicit purpose, the illicit purpose being sex with underage women. And so that's why you had the RICO conspiracy, and then that's why you had violations of the Mann Act. And of course, I've been listening to all of the noise on social media. I do understand the historical perspective of the uses of the Mann Act, but we also have to understand that these allegations and now proven crimes were against African Americans by an African American. So of course, I understand the historical perspective, but I also understand the extent of these allegations that have now been proven to be true.
How comfortable were you all with this with this case? I mean, I know it's been long and grueling, and you up against a man that's considered powerful in the industry. You know, what was it? I mean, did the victims? I mean, was it a determination type thing, or was it just up in the air? Or I mean, what was that experience like?
I mean, it was definitely determination, and I have to take my hats off to the survivors. They went through a lot. Both in person and online, as well as the abuses that they survived. So it was a lot. Many people doubted them. Many people tried to victim shame them. Many people tried to abuse and threaten. But ultimately, their resolve to see this thing all the way to its conclusion is the reason why we've reached this point. I also have to thank many of the activists, the Mute R. Kelly movement. Many African-American women were the reason for the renewed attention around this case. And then, of course, independent media that was pushing it. So, we're appreciative of all the support that we have gotten, but we are in the process of getting justice. This is just one step.
Now, you said there was, I'm sorry, go ahead. 4 cases. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
These 4 cases, does that mean that there are 3 more, or is this just?
There are 3 more. So he had the case, the conspiracy case, RICO conspiracy case in the Eastern District of New York. He currently has a obstruction of justice, child pornography case in the Northern District of Illinois. And then he has a state case, which is in Cook County. And then he has another state case in Minnesota. State case in Minnesota is allegation of child pornography. The state case in Illinois is a culmination of all of this that we've seen before. And then, of course, the big one is the Northern District of Illinois, where they're charging him for obstructing the previous trial and then violations of aggravated sexual abuse and having sexual relations with underage women. So he still faces a panoply of charges that could end with him being in prison for the rest of his life.
So you spoke already to sort of myth busting what's spoken about in social media. One of the other things that gets thrown around a lot, even come up in my own classes, has been something to the effect, why did the families let him do all of this? Where were all of the other members of the family? Why weren't they crashing through some door and busting him up? Or so given your experience obviously with the law, but also sort of intimately knowing the stories of the victims, what would you say to people who might from the outside looking in say, why didn't they just go grab their children? He's just R. Kelly. Why didn't they deal with this differently and more aggressively a long time ago?
Well, I mean, R. Kelly had enablers, many of which were in law enforcement for a very long time. So you weren't going to just run up and bust into somebody's apartment or house or studio. You would have been stopped by law enforcement many times. There were several competent threats against people's lives, which ended in 2 people now being charged for those. So I think people need to understand that this was a process, and many of the accusers had attorneys that were guiding them on the correct way to do this. Lee Merritt had a few of the cases. Gloria Allred had a few of the cases. I have a few of the cases. There were many lawyers over a substantial amount of time that had cases. Even Mr. Avenatti at some point allegedly had some cases. But it was a concerted effort to make sure that this was accomplished the correct way. I do understand that many people are saying on many platforms, if it was their child. Well, it wasn't your child. And you need to make sure that you do it the appropriate way. So I would say that survivors and the families did it the appropriate way in this particular case. And I do understand the concern for many people about the documentary, but they need to understand there were 3 documentaries. It took time to get people to understand what was actually happening and then to provide information that would lead law enforcement to take an action. Because for many years, law enforcement was not going to take any action against Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly. They were not believing the voices of the victims and survivors. So it took a concerted effort to get it that far.
I appreciate
wanted
you.
to ask you about obviously there's still criminal charges and there are civil charges or a civil case, I guess several civil cases. Can you discuss a little bit around what are next in terms of some of the lawsuits that are going to be, some which are probably already pending, maybe some have not been filed but will be filed soon, and where is that at in terms of some of the legal work that still has to be done around holding R. Kelly responsible?
Exactly. There are currently several lawsuits that are pending. There will probably be other lawsuits that have been filed, but particularly for my clients, the focus was to hold him criminally accountable and then to reunite the Savage family with their daughter. Other lawyers have filed actions. I believe Gloria Allred has a civil action in New York. I know there's several other lawsuits pending, both in Georgia as well as in Mississippi, but we do expect that there will be others. I think what people fully need to understand that a majority of the accusers and families wanted to hold him accountable criminally. I see it all the time. Many people, they were in it for the money, and when the money stopped, many of the accusers were not in it for anything other than justice. And so I think that that's another myth that's floating around social media, particularly for my clients. Nobody ever requested a dime, received a dime, did anything for any amount of money. They wanted him to be held accountable. And what a lot of people have to understand is there was a concerted group around Mr. Kelly that enabled this behavior for decades. And so it took these survivors having the courage to go all the way. And my hat is off to them. They suffered abuses online that no one should suffer. And then they suffered physically things that still have not been outlined completely. The documentary was the G-rated version of what happened. The trial got more to an R rating. There are explicit X-rated things that happen to not only young women and girls, but also boys. And so that was all brought out in court, and that will be brought out even more. There were videos, there were tape recordings, there were witnesses, 46 witnesses that testified in this case, and there are other witnesses that will testify in other cases. There was ample evidence. So when I heard people online talking about, oh, they don't have any evidence, oh, it's a he say, she say, no, it was a he say, the evidence say, the DNA says, the tape says, his admissions say, all of this happened, and that was proven in a court of law and will be proven again.
Man, I appreciate you taking on such a bold case and a bold stance. And I agree with you on the victim tip because of the fact that so oftentimes people are afraid to come forward because of the fact that they don't want to go through all the bullshit that comes with it. So definitely hats off to you on that. One of the things you mentioned that was important as well, you said that he was protected by law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Now, are these like hired off-duty cops that you're saying that he had security, or what was the situation with that?
Well, from the testimony, and again, I'm going to focus on what's publicly available. From the testimony, he had in his defense a former Chicago police officer who testified that R. Kelly hired private security, many of which were part of Chicago police. So that's what's publicly available. Of course, we know of other instances and allegations that will probably come forward in the trial that will show that he had significant help from law enforcement.
Has the Savages been reunited with their daughter, or what's the situation with that?
Not yet. We've had occasion to speak with her on several occasions over the phone. They've spoken with her directly in person once, but they have not had a consistent sit-down engagement of their daughter. That's what they're seeking. Now that Mr. Kelly has been arrested and now convicted, we are seeking to reunite with her permanently and to establish a line of communication that rebuilds that familial relationship. So we're in the process of doing that. We will continue to do that. That's been their goal from the very beginning, to reunite with their daughter and to make sure that Mr. Kelly was held accountable.
Just two quick questions. One, I'm not sure if you've answered or if I missed it, but all the people that you've said enabled Kelly, are any of them going to be charged? Can there be charges even if you're under his employ? I'm assuming that legally that doesn't protect you from illegal activity or from, you know, protecting him in illegal activity. And then the other question I have is he still going to be able to earn money off of his music sales going forward? Does any of that get interrupted by any of the charges that have come or might come?
Yeah, those are excellent questions. Thank you for those questions. First and foremost, everyone that enabled his behavior can be charged. Now, that's a decision that will be made by federal prosecutors and state prosecutors. 3 have already been charged. We fully expect that others will be charged. There was a lot of conversation online about how can he be in a RICO conspiracy by himself. He was never in a RICO conspiracy by himself. There were unindicted co-conspirators. Those unindicted co-conspirators can be indicted. Some of them cooperated and testified. Some of them did not. So we fully expect that other criminal proceedings will take place, including the 3 that have already been indicted. Your second question about him continuing to earn financial compensation from his music. My understanding is he does not own his masters. And so we think that other entities are profiting off of Mr. Kelly. That's a decision that those entities have to make about whether or not they're going to continue to fund this type of behavior, but they could potentially open themselves up to civil and criminal liability as well. This is still a process. Yesterday was the beginning of the end of this journey. It's not the end. So we fully expect that entities that help to enable this type of conduct will be held accountable. That is part of the wishes of many of the survivors, of course, the wishes of many of my clients. And so we're hopeful. But the short answer is it's up to law enforcement, who else they're going to charge, who else they're going to take to trial. We provided substantial evidence of numerous enablers. And so I believe they face civil and criminal liability that they should be concerned about.
My bad. Just real quick. Sorry, Kalon. Just to follow up. Did I hear you correctly that if those who own the masters to his music continue to sell and profit from it, that they could somehow be seen as being culpable in promoting his behavior? Is that did I hear you correctly?
What I'm saying is this: since he's been in custody, he's not been able to continue the criminal conduct that we know of. Prior to that, there were entities that were funding all of the lavish lifestyle, all of the ability to transport women and to fly women out. All of that conduct under the government's theory is enabling a criminal conspiracy. So each member of the conspiracy can be held accountable for the underlying activity of the conspiracy. So if he was convicted of RICO, every actor that took a substantial step during the completion of that purpose can be criminally and civilly liable. I'm not saying they're going to act on it, but there's a legal theory upon which they can.
So I think I mean, one interjection would be like, these are corporations, so whether or not they'll be held criminally liable, I think is maybe probably will not happen.
Yeah, probably won't.
And whether or not, I mean, but these one, R. Kelly will have some resources. The question becomes, like in New York State, you had certain laws, I believe the Son of Sam law, which would stop anybody from so-called profiting off of any sort of act that they were convicted of in terms of any resources because they wrote a book or something like that. Now, obviously, many of these songs were written or produced prior to a conviction, but whether or not, again, an argument can be made, and again, he wasn't convicted in New York State law, but whether or not an argument can be made that the continual sale and any resources that he gets his share of, right, because of the record sales, should that be taken away from him and applied to victims? And again, you have the civil lawsuits, which will probably not only hit R. Kelly, but again, might potentially hit some of these record companies because of their continued profiteering off of music and so forth, which again, the claim could be that helped support him in his activities well after these companies knew that was happening. So I think all that stuff is still left on the table.
Yes, exactly.
So do you, as part of his legal team, as part of the victim's legal team, do you feel that the whole Aaliyah marriage, was that a big factor in the case, or what was the situation with that? Because of course we have our outside viewing in type situation. How did that work out?
I mean, it was a big part of making out the RICO conspiracy. And I think it was a big part of proving the enabling conduct that occurred over a substantial amount of time. It was very difficult listening to that evidence and learning about that during the course of this investigation, because ultimately, if people had stepped up back then, you would not have had the number of victims now. So it's very difficult. I was a fan of Aaliyah. And still am very concerned about the things that I learned, which now much of is publicly available. But I think it played a role in showing the pattern and practice of Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly.
Right on, man. Definitely appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy. I know you got a ton of interviews coming on, but we hit you up last minute. I want to definitely salute you an hour and a half before. And you didn't make a bunch of excuses. Oh, I gotta go talk to Oprah and all these other people, whatever. You asked me what time and where it's at. So we definitely anytime you got anything going on, Black Power Media is a platform that you can use. So definitely check in with us, man. Keep us posted on anything happening. And I want to point out too that Gerald Griggs is he's not a quote unquote entertainment attorney. He's a brother that we know out here in the Atlanta area that whose main work is around police terrorism. You know what I mean? So that's the main gist of it. So it's not a situation where he just, here's something, let's hit this lick. There's someone who we've been in the streets on numerous occasions or whatever, dealing with this whole issue of police terrorism here in the Atlanta area. So definitely salute to you for your continued work, brother.
Well, I appreciate you guys for having me on the platform. Kalonji, when you hit me up, we've known each other a long time. So I wanted to support the platform. Proud to see the growth that you guys are having. And any time that I can be of any assistance on any of these issues, just let me know and I will continue to support the show. So thank you for allowing me on the platform. And like you said, I mainly deal in issues of civil rights, especially around police brutality and police violence. So that's my main focus with regard to child sex trafficking. The victims came to me, and I saw there was a problem, and I knew we needed to act. And I was honored to be a part of the legal team. We will continue to push forward for justice. So thank you guys for having me on the platform.
Definitely appreciate you, brother. Stay on point. We'll be talking to you soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Checking out the Remix Morning Show. That was attorney Gerald Griggs. Man, that was hard, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking again, just how important it is to have attorneys doing this kind of work. We need, all different trades in the struggle, and that's definitely one. So it's always good to see that yet another one. And then it's also seems relevant that given what we were hearing here, his work with police terrorism seems perfectly relevant for his work with this case, since they seem as much involved in protecting that operation as they seem to always often pop up when things like this are going on,
Hey,
I mean, I just think the use of the RICO statute was such, taking the fact that he should have been convicted years ago, that it took the RICO statute, which was obviously is something that people have talked about as, particularly as it applies to our political folks, has been misused. But it's interesting how the statute was applied in this particular case, because essentially, you're talking about, I think Kalani brought this up, you're talking about people who were employed by R. Kelly, basically, and some of them in their minds, thought they were doing their job, right? Or some of them in their minds maybe even felt like they had no choice. But it becomes obvious when you are faced with a choice, when someone is telling you to do something which you may have some doubts about, and you're thinking about keeping your job, you should lose your job. Because if someone is asking you to make sure some women get to my hotel at such and such and such an hour at such and such a time, and that's part of your job, or to make sure that I can sneak that person out and the media don't know, and you think that's part of your job, you should think two or three times about what your real job is, because these things lead to things, and you think this is some experience that you may climb in a ladder, but you may be sending yourself to jail. So,
hey man, we're gonna spin out real quick and come back. You know what I'm saying? You're checking out the Remix Morning Show. Happy born date, Dr. Jared Ball. We'll be right back in a few ticks.
Remix. Like my man John Judge used to say, you can't have organized crime without organized police. So all of that
true.
Staying around for all of that stuff.
I'm glad he was able to come on though.
I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
No, I was just glad he was able to come on because of the fact that we need to hear from the horse's mouth sometime, man. Like what's going on. Our opinions are good, but knowing from sources is even better. But we got the ear doctor coming up next. Is that what I heard you say?
I thought so. He looked like he's ready.
Okay, well, come forward, Lampshade.
Hey, hey, real quick. So it's funny that R. Kelly has to be like one of the first entertainers that DJs are somewhat canceling. Like a lot of other people have done a bunch of things, and they haven't got canceled. You have Africa Bambaataa. A lot of us ain't playing that, but you have a lot of them. Is there any authors or any books that people have put out that you canceled them now?
Oh, I have a whole bunch that I've canceled, but I don't know that have been universally canceled. But I'm actually interested even in. I want to think more about what you just said. I mean, about DJs canceling artists. I mean, I don't think I've ever thought of it that way before.
Yeah, because
is there a history behind that?
It's like "Step in the Name of Love" is a great song. I Believe I Can Fly is a great song for graduations and all types of stuff, but no remix to Ignition. We're not, and those are the party favorites. So for us, we're like, you know what? We're not touching that. We're not touching it because we don't want nobody to come and give us no crazy look. So even when the Michael Jackson thing went down, you had some looks from people. When as soon as you play Michael, and you know Mike got some bangers. So
except he's innocent.
Right.
So
You know, it's crazy. The very first time I met Ear Doctor, what were you playing when I came up to you?
African Bambaataa.
And what did I say to you?
You said you can't play that music. That music petrified.
It was at a protest rally. I didn't even know the Ear Doctor, man. I was like, hold up. We can't do this.
Hey, at my daughter's middle school event a couple years ago, I shut down them playing R. Kelly. I Believe I Can Fly. They queued that up, and I walked right over that joint and was like, "You can't be playing that." And this is even before the documentaries and everything, because I had read all the Chicago reports, like the reports to all the police filings. There was a lot of stuff filed on this dude, and I read all this stuff. I was like, "Man, you." And they looked at me funny, but I was like, "Man, you got to get this out of here!" Like, I gave him a Kalanji face, and it was like it's gonna get riotous up in this joint.
It's an interesting dilemma, right? Because it's pre-conviction, right? I mean, some of this is all this stuff is done based on accusations. And R. Kelly, there was so much, I'd say, accusation / evidence prior to any conviction, and it was obviously that one trial where he was not convicted, even though there was videotape evidence. So it's going to that point of radio stations or bookstores or whatever around canceling it, and even people obviously losing jobs and positions. The interesting question is always like when, right? So when is it at the first accusation, the second accusation?
The one that got me is in the filed reports that he had days where it was known at certain Chicago schools, at least high schools, I believe also middle schools, that he was going to be coming around. And that was the day the kids knew, some of the girls knew to be, well, girls at the time I knew, to be out there positioning themselves, pun intended, to get picked up. So when I saw that, I'm like, if it's that well known, that where is everybody? Like, how much, you know what I mean? But I think the general thing has been, if it's young, particularly poor Black children, who gives a shit? So, if he's making millions of dollars for an industry, who cares about
for decades, his story wasn't even, like, you're right, it wasn't as prominent as some other, people going back and forth on whether or not there's white entertainers that have been canceled, but there was more media when stories hit around white entertainers, including someone like a Woody Allen and some other folks, because the larger zeitgeist cared about those folks more, right? R. Kelly partly was allowed to do what he did because you're right, because it was a Black entertainer. There were Black girls, apparently now Black boys,
wasn't messing with
Black women
white
who were sexually assaulted, and folks, we don't have control over institutions to decide who gets prosecuted and who doesn't. So it became, he married a famous entertainer who was underage, and still, even at that time, nothing happened, right? Nobody talked about it in public, that kind of thing. So it took this. I think as the attorney Gerald was talking about, it took this slow build, literally over decades, to reach to a point where
25 years.
The stuff became so big that, again, not only did media not ignore it anymore, but the court system couldn't ignore it anymore.
Right. And the ill thing about it, you had bootleggers actually selling the DVDs. I remember back in the day, these cats is selling R. Kelly sex tape DVDs with minors. I mean, honestly, in retrospect, I don't knock nobody hustle, but in that case, I damn sure knock it. And that's when you should have got your head bust, because of the fact that for you to even think it's cool to make a buck off of one of the most heinous criminal acts that could be committed, you're a strange kind of person. You know what I'm saying? For that to even been able to fly, we supposed to, every time you see the DVD man and he got that, somebody need to be smashed up, including those DVDs. So definitely salute to the sisters behind the scenes that put in a lot of work in regards to this case. I remember Sister Ra from WRFG. She held we did a protest back in 2009 here in Atlanta, right outside of the venue. And R. Kelly's DJ, Wayne Williams, he came out there trying to talk to us like, blase, blah. It ain't dude, get up out of here for this joint, man. We don't even play those type of games. But he has not Wayne Williams, the accused child killer here in that.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what?
Nah, they got
this one.
He's popular on he's popular on the radio out in Chicago and whatnot.
Yeah, my bad. I was like, what is
yeah,
going on?
He came outside like on some slick shit. I'm like, look, dude, we are not who you think we are. This ain't the average cats with signs. So.
Hey, I was in Chicago some years ago at an event, this again before the documentary, and I had made a comment just in passing on the way getting a ride from this brother and a sister who apparently she knew R. Kelly, and I just made a comment. They brought up his name, and I was like, man, somebody pedophile, disgusting. He's he should be this, that, and the third. And she said, oh, I've known him all my life. I have never seen any evidence of anything wrong. And I just remember I kind of gave her, I couldn't even catch myself. I was like, I kind of gave her a look like, how could that be? How could you not? Even I have read all this stuff. How could you say you known him for years in Chicago? And said she knew nothing. So
and I think people, whether they know the person or not, again, we talking about celebrity culture, people identify so closely to these people who they don't really know at all and act as if somehow they're members of their family or they're people who they have some trust in. It's like, remember, this is somebody putting out music. You don't know nothing about their private life. It's somebody who wrote a book. You don't know what they do other than what they've said publicly at a platform. So when you so closely identify with these people, they're not even in terms of some of this wrongdoing that's going on, but even in some of the bigger life issues, and people identify so closely with people's actions, it just speaks of a certain sort of psychological break with reality that somehow you know what this person is like, what they're doing in their private lives, that you co-sign even when the evidence suggests something else to you, clearly suggests something else to you. So it's just, I think it's even part of that bigger sort of celebrity culture that we all got to get beyond, because it also puts us in a certain box of like, these become our leaders. These become the people that people respond to, that people protect, that people measure their daily lives towards. And it's become the sickness that we got to figure out how to break out of.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, go ahead here, Doc. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I think R. Kelly's acts was so egregious, and at the point where they got put on film and everything, that it was like, yo, you got to cancel him. I mean, you got Cardi B that talked about slipping stuff in guys' drinks and setting them up. You got Dr. Dre that slapped up D Brown. You got a bunch of different people that did some wild stuff, but we didn't cancel them out. But I think, R. Kelly's just took it to that next level, especially being filmed. So.
I would like to respectfully ask, first of all, I agree with Kim Brown's comment, and I'm just wondering how she's in the chat and not on the screen. I'm confused by that.
I was wondering that myself.
You mean like you are on your teaching days, brother?
Whoa, shots fired.
Oh. She might be doing some other work and just decided to add a little something. Oh, my bad. My bad.
Kim has been in the chat since 8 o'clock.
Kamal be a little loose with the lips and sinking ships around these posts.
Okay.
But
no, not Kamal.
But just real quick, I would like to request of the Remixers crew to tag any or all of us and Black Power Media on Ear Doctor's original question or set of questions, if I can add to it, because I'm very interested in this. What histories or that's messed up right there. That's messed up. What precedent has been set by DJs canceling artists, if any, and what precedents have been set in academia for canceling authors or scholars? I'd like to think about that a little bit, like, because I know we have our personal cancellations, but if there's, I'm interested if there's been, I can't think of any, but if there's been like grand cancellations at this level in either DJing or academia, I'd be very interested in that. So people out there in the chat or whatever, tag us going forward on social media, and maybe we'll come back to this tomorrow morning a little bit.
No doubt.
I'm very interested in that.
Hey man, it's that time again. You know what I mean? MICKEY. I
was thinking the same.
We just got to work on the segues.
Hey man, you know how we do around here. Check it out, man. It's the Remix Morning Show. We appreciate y'all. Definitely we need y'all to, you know, we need that promo. Let these folks know that we here. Like, subscribe, tweet, all that good stuff. I mean, how many morning shows organically without any corporate funding can call up an attorney, can call up an entertainer, a scholar, whatever, on the whim, and get that information out to you first thing fresh. Not going to get a lot of that. So make sure you support what it is we're doing here at BPM. We appreciate y'all. Happy 50th, Dr. J. Ball. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you very much.
Mama Baruti, happy born date to her as well.
Yes,
60
indeed.
years.
Many more.
Yeah. And we'll be right black at you tomorrow morning, same time, same station. Tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend again. JB's Mama's Biscuits in the building. We'll always love Mama's Biscuits. Anyway, y'all have a good one, man.
Peace,
Black Power
everybody.
Media.
Peace.